In the heart of New York City, where skyscrapers touch the clouds and dreams are made of gold, there lived a young man in the shadows. His sanctuary was not a penthouse, but a cramped, windowless basement apartment that smelled of dampness and old dreams. He was invisible to the world, just another soul trying to survive the crushing weight of the city. Every morning, before the sun could even grace the streets, he would squeeze himself into the metal belly of the subway. Surrounded by thousands of strangers, he felt utterly alone. The rhythmic clanking of the train tracks was the soundtrack of his weary life, carrying him to a job that barely paid for his bread. He was a kitchen helper at a small sandwich shop. His hands were always wet, skin wrinkled from hours of washing vegetables and scrubbing dishes. He wasn't a chef. He was the ghost in the background, silently observing the art of baking from a distance, wishing he could touch the dough just once. But life has a way of testing us when we are least prepared. One freezing winter morning, a catastrophe struck. The shop's main supplier suddenly terminated their contract. No warning, no negotiation. The lifeline of the bakery was cut off in an instant. The owner, a good man worn down by years of labor, collapsed onto the flour-dusted floor. Without ingredients, there would be no bread. Without bread, the shop would close. The silence in the kitchen was deafening, heavier than any sack of flour. It felt like the end. In that moment of absolute despair, a spark ignited in the young man's mind. He closed his eyes and drifted back to his childhood. He saw the golden fields of his hometown. He smelled the sweet, earthy aroma of his mother's kitchen. She didn't use expensive wheat. She used corn. Summoning every ounce of courage he had, he approached his boss. "Sir," he whispered, his voice trembling, but his eyes burning with determination. "We don't need their flour. Let me try making bread from corn. My mother's recipe. It can save us." The owner laughed bitterly at first. "Cornbread? In New York? People want baguettes, not peasant food." But looking at the empty shelves and the fire in the boy's eyes, he realized he had nothing left to lose. "Fine," he sighed. "Show me what you can do." That night, the kitchen transformed into a laboratory of passion. The young man worked with a rhythm he never knew he possessed. He ground the corn, mixed the batter, and seasoned it with memories. He wasn't just baking bread, he was baking his soul into every loaf. Time seemed to stand still as the loaves baked. He sat in front of the oven door, watching the dough rise, his face illuminated by the warm orange glow of the fire. He prayed to the spirit of his mother, hoping her recipe would work one last miracle. When the timer dinged, a scent exploded into the air, sweet, savory, and undeniably comforting. He pulled the tray out. The bread was perfect. Golden brown crusts that crackled softly, promising a moist, fluffy interior. It was a masterpiece of simplicity. The owner broke off a piece, the steam dancing around his fingers. He took a bite. Silence followed. Then, his eyes widened in disbelief. The flavor was explosive, a symphony of sweetness and texture that he had never experienced before. Tears welled up in his eyes. This is it," he whispered. They opened the doors the next morning with trembling hearts. One customer tried it out of curiosity, then another. The reaction was instant. The unique taste of the cornbread was like a warm hug in the cold city. People didn't just eat it, they fell in love with it. News traveled fast. In the age of social media, the golden cornbread became a viral sensation. Influencers, food critics, and locals flocked to the tiny shop. Lines stretched around the block, people waiting hours just to get a taste of the magic. The profits soared beyond their wildest dreams. But the owner was a man of honor. He called the young helper into his office, not as a servant, but as an equal. He handed him a contract transferring 50% of the business. The boy who washed dishes was now a partner. Together, they were unstoppable. They experimented, created new recipes, and expanded. From one small shop to a franchise that spanned across America and reached the far corners of the globe. The poor boy from the basement had built an empire. Wealth followed success. The young man moved from the basement to a penthouse in the sky. He had everything money could buy: suits, cars, and fame. But looking out over the city that once ignored him, he knew his heart belonged elsewhere. He never forgot the gnawing pain of hunger or the cold floor of his tiny room. Every month, he personally drove a truck loaded with fresh bread to the poorest neighborhoods. He handed out food not as a billionaire, but as a friend. But he gave them more than just food. He gave them a future. His company became known for hiring the homeless, the uneducated, and the struggling. He taught them the craft, just as he had taught himself. He turned his kitchens into schools of hope. From a cornfield memory to a global legacy, his journey proved one thing. No matter how humble your ingredients, if you bake with love and share your success, you can feed the world. And that is the true recipe for a rich life. This story proves that the answer often lies in our simplest roots. He turned a humble memory into an empire because he added the most important ingredient: love. Remember, true wealth isn't measured by the money you keep, but by the people you lift up. Success is empty if you eat alone. So break bread, share your light, and never forget where you came from.